Hallo zusammen! Wir sprechen heute nochmal über den Tesla Semi Truck, denn er kommt nach Deutschland. Er wird Mitte September bei uns auf der IAA Transportation ausgestellt. Grund genug, mir hier einen Experten einzuladen, um mit ihm ein bisschen über E-Trucks zu reden. Das werde ich auf Englisch machen. Vorher wie immer noch der Hinweis auf den Sponsor, der dieses Video möglich macht. Bis gleich. Tesla Welt wird präsentiert von Shop for Tesla. Nachhaltiges Zubehör findest du jetzt exakt passend für deinen Tesla mit dem neuen Shop for Tesla Konfigurator. Und mit Holy habt ihr eine echte Alternative zu ungesunden Softdrinks. Geiler Geschmack mit gutem Gewissen, ohne Blödsinn wie Zucker oder künstliche Aromen. Über die Links in der Beschreibung bekommt ihr Rabatt und ermöglicht es mir, für euch dieses Video zu machen. Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe der Tesla Welt. Wir sprechen heute über den Tesla Semi Truck und das tun wir in Englisch. Hello and welcome, Johnny Nijenhuis. I invited you today to talk about the Tesla Semi Truck. Maybe we can introduce you quickly. You are a real expert on the e-trucking business. That's a passion of yours. You're passionate about technology. You're passionate about bringing companies to the next level, to the e-trucking level. And so your focus is mainly to inform and to inspire people about e-trucking, right?
Yeah, exactly. To introduce myself a little bit more, like 7 years ago, I was introduced to the trucking space. In the trucking sector, I was a salesman for over 4 years. And quickly after I started, I got to a little bit known to electric trucks. And with the passion for technology I already got, the coupling between trucks and technology was easily made. And so electric trucks was, for me, quite logic to do. I dated for my last the company where I work for, and 3 years ago I started for myself as an independent consultant on electric trucks. And what I'm doing, I'm helping transportation companies to make the switch to electric trucks faster and cheaper. So what I do indeed is give a lot of presentations, master classes, but I also do TCO calculations, total cost of ownership calculations. Those are very important for making the switch to electric trucks. And I also started my own e-truck academy a couple of months ago, an online learning platform where I can inform and learn all the topics of electric trucks to transportation companies. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm indeed very passionate about the subject.
Obviously, we will link to your academy down below this video, so people can check out everything that you do. I discovered you on the Limiting Factor YouTube channel from Jordan Giesecke. He did an interview with you a while back about the Tesla Semi Truck, and I liked really your expertise, and I liked two things about you. First of all, that you were passionate about the topic, but you had also a deep knowledge of the industry. And this is something that I really liked, is that you were kind of independent on the topic, even you have a passion for the Tesla Semi Truck. And I think that was quite interesting. And I'm very happy to have you on my show today. Even though I normally do not English interviews. Yeah? I'm just a German-speaking channel. So sorry for two people who have not English as their native language. And the German audience has to cope with it as well today. Maybe we start with the general market adoption. Where are we today when it comes to electric trucking? Maybe how far is the industry?
Yeah, we're really just starting in a transition to electric trucks. Like market adoption is just a few % of the total market. When I look to the Netherlands, where I'm from, last year we came out on a percentage of 2.7%, I think, by heart. This year we will go up to like 4% something, but only in the low digit numbers. For Germany, it will be somewhere in the same ballpark, maybe as a percentage even lower. And then you can say that the Netherlands and Germany and also Norway, for example, are the countries that are most far ahead if you compare it to other countries like Spain or like Italy or even like Poland. So we're just starting in this transition. We are completely at the front of the transition.
How is China doing? And the US, maybe? Do you have an insight on that?
In absolute numbers, China is going like crazy. Like last year, they registered like 24,000 electric trucks. to give that to compare that with Europe. In Europe, we register at average 300,000 trucks on a year basis in the whole of Europe. So 24,000 electric trucks is an absolute number, is mind blowing at the moment. It's not comparable to any other country or continent in the world. In relative figures, I don't really know, but yeah, China is a little bit ahead. I think if you compare the numbers and the registrations and just the number of trucks.
Okay, thank you. If we talk about fleet operations and logistic companies today, one thing I took away from your last interview with Jordan was that there is quite some time that you need to prepare basically the transition to electric vehicles.
Yeah, exactly. This is true. You can say, if you ask me and I had to put a number on it, I would say you need about 2 to 3 years to prepare fully on an electric fleet, and perhaps even longer. But I think 2 to 3 years is a good measuring stick. In the learning curve, you get further up, and eventually you are slowed down in your learning. But the most important steps you have to learn, you will make in those first 2-3 years. For example, you have to get a grid connection. So transportation companies from origin are just they get their energy from diesel, so they don't have a big grid connection where they can charge their trucks with. So most of the trucking companies have a very small grid connection. They have to upgrade it. And when we see in the Netherlands, for example, but it's also starting in Germany, and we see it a little bit in France, and the other countries will come as well. We have what we call it grid congestion. So we have an overload of the grid. The grid is not coping the demand of electricity. And in the Netherlands, especially, you'll see we have already queues to wait on when you get connected with a big grid connection. So only this step could take you up to 3, 4, 5 years in the Netherlands, for example. But even if that wasn't the problem, and you would have started a pilot project with a first electric truck just to get acquainted with the matter. If I see in practice, it also takes up to 2-3 years before you fully understand what it all comprehends. So you have to buy a charger. So you have to know what the difference is between a kilowatt and a kilowatt hour. You have to look at the purchase contracts of your energy. You have to look up what the cost of the total cost of energy is, etc. And all those kind of things, subsidies, you name it. There's a complete new game you're playing as a transportation company you are not used to. So this will take up some time because you're learning as you are. You're also operating your normal diesel fleet. So you're doing your normal things, what is hard enough already because margins, profit margins in transportation and road transport are very, very small. A good year is 2 to 3% margin. So it's just holding on and not going broke in the end. And next to that, you have to learn a whole new game to survive in the long term. So it's very important to start early on with the transition to electric trucks. Take small steps at a time so you can oversee the cost, you can see the effort, but you have to start really, really early on, and 2 to 3 years is the bare minimum, I think.
How much potential do you have as a logistic companies to accelerate this transition if you go with own solar production or battery storage? And how much independence can you get from the grid with that?
Well, it really depends on the situation, because I don't know what the fleet is and how big your land is or your roof is. But investing in solar, investing in stationary battery systems, it adds up in the end. You can say that there are 3 components in the transition to electric trucks that are the vehicles itself, the trucks itself. Now, a transportation company cannot do a whole lot about it. The trucks itself, they just come. The truck manufacturers develop and produce the e-trucks, and you can just buy them. There's not much you can do there. And then there's charging infrastructure. As we said, this is part of the charging infrastructure. You can invest into that, and you should invest into that because that's where all the time goes into. And the third component is the cost parity, because only when those three components, so the truck can do the work, the charging infrastructure is in place, and the cost parity is reached, so the cost for an electric truck is lower than that of a diesel truck, then we make a swift and transition to a fleet of only electric trucks. And this is for a company on its own, but it is also for the whole sector. So when you're saying, do you have a lot of influence with investing in, for example, solar and stationary batteries? Yes, you'll have, because in the end, it adds up to a better TCO, a better total cost of ownership. So you can pool the year that the TCO goes break even with a diesel truck towards you. So you can really, if you invest in your charging infrastructure in the right way, for example, solar and stationary batteries, but also smart charging, for example, this makes a big difference. This is a new game for trucking companies. They are not used to buy in or to generate their own energy, because diesel you just buy at a diesel refueling station. But with electricity, this is a whole different game. And I think that it's, in the end, for the most companies, it's not possible to be completely grid independent. I don't think that's also a very smart idea to do that, because if we work together, it will work better. But I calculated once that for a Volvo FH electric, but is the standard electric tractor in Europe at the moment, and you could say you need about 600 square meters of solar panels to provide enough electricity the year round for your electric truck. And this is not taking into consideration winter and summer times. It's just taking the whole amount per year and putting the whole to supply to the electric truck the whole year long. And 600 square meters is a lot of space for just one truck. And you see fleets up to thousands of trucks in the bigger fleets. And if you have like a medium fleet in the Netherlands, it's between 50 to 100 trucks. So I don't think it's really possible with only solar. With wind turbines, it's a different ballgame, but we don't know for sure what the possibilities are yet. The first transportation company in the Netherlands, they announced that they are building 2 wind turbines to provide electricity for their electric trucks. So this is the next big step, but I think per let's say on average you can charge like 30 electric trucks per wind turbine. It provides enough electricity. But then also again, sometimes the wind doesn't blow, the sun doesn't shine. You want to have a backup from the grid. So I don't think in the end that you will be grid independent.
Yeah, for sure. But you can accelerate the transition at least and to get a part of it, or to get the point of TCO earlier.
The cheapest way of getting energy is generating your own electricity. Even for solar, for example, I think we're already at a point that solar and stationary battery storage is only already at the same price point as electricity getting from the grid. And because what we're seeing in the Netherlands is we have to upgrade our grid because of grid congestion. What we just talked about, there goes a lot of money into upgrading the grid, and eventually the users of the grid have to pay the grid operators to upgrade the grid. So we are seeing the last years that the fee for the grid operator is doubling year after year. So the fee goes up. And prices for solar and for batteries are going down. So the prices are coming towards each other. And I think we're already at the point, maybe already past the point that solar plus battery energy storage system is already cheaper than electricity from the grid.
Oh yeah, and guess you have at some point the possibility to help the grid with your battery storage and maybe even with your trucking fleet when you have a lot of electric trucks that can take off some
maybe eventually in the end. But in transportation, because margins are so small, we are used to fighting for every cent we can earn. And only if we have a financial incentive to stabilize the grid, we will do that. But in the first place, we're installing solar, and we're installing solar stationary battery systems, and perhaps we're installing wind turbines only for our own use, just to make our own business case work. And if we have something left of energy and we could help and it financially makes sense, we're going to stabilize the grid. That's how it goes normally in a transportation company.
When I talk about the Tesla Semi Truck on my channel, this is very often a very emotional topic for a lot of people who are watching. I'm not sure why it is, because I always feel like the trucking industry, as you said, every penny counts, and so it doesn't really matter how the truck looks or how it works, as long as it works and as long as it can save you money. Do you think the transition to electric trucks will go much faster than to electric cars?
Yeah, for sure, because I recognize what you say. That's much of the time is very emotional, but that the decision-making guys, the decision-making unit within transportation companies, they make decision not by heart. Often, sometimes they make a decision with their heart and with emotion. But most of the time, they just make a calculation. Okay, what is the cheapest way to go? We will do this the cheapest way, because this is probably the only way we can make some profit in the end. Because our shippers are tendering out our lines or driving lines every year and just taking the lowest price every time. So when electric trucks have a lower TCO or lower cost than diesel trucks, we will pick electric trucks over diesel trucks from there on, and 100% for that application. And I think this will already be in a couple of years. So I think this will be in 2027 and 2028, mainly depending on tariffs, taxes, but also on the purchase price of electric trucks. We're seeing purchase prices already going down. And as I understand that Tesla is also preparing a purchase price of far below 300,000 euros or $300,000. And if this would be the case with the range they are providing, so like a 500-mile range, and if this truck is really like 250,000 euros, I think in the beginning in 2017 they said it was 180,000 euros. But I have to see if they can make that one true in the beginning, and maybe later on. But if the purchase prices go down up to 200,000 euros, I expect that the TCO, the cost parity, will be reached as soon as the truck is available for purchase. And so this could go very, very fast. And it for the outside world, it will look like it happened overnight. But yeah, if you look more into the matter as I'm doing for a couple of years, it's progressing slowly. But a Tesla Semi with a new price point that is very low for a high spec truck could make a big difference in the market. Yes.
Do you know, when we're talking about scale, what the plans are for the other manufacturers right now? Because Tesla announced that they will plan for 50K capacity per year in the first Tesla Semi Truck factory in Nevada, which they are building right now. This is quite huge for the US market, because this will be probably just for the US market only. And I looked it up at some point. I think that if they would really make or produce 50,000 semi-trucks per year, it would make them the second largest manufacturer in the US right away. And as we know, Tesla can scale quite quickly. So I guess if they install 50K capacity, they will maybe need 2 years to scale. Are there other manufacturers who are planning a similar capacity?
Yeah, they are. Because the legacy brands, the legacy truck manufacturers are also seeing this swifter transition to electric trucks. So let's say the average truck brand in Europe is saying that they are going to sell at least 10% of their trucks in 2025. It has to be electric or it has to be zero emissions. And further on in 2030, they think that up to 50 or 60% even will be electric. Now, 2 years ago, the Now GmbH, which is a German subsidy institute, I think, did an independent research on what the brand manufacturers thought they are going to sell on electric trucks in the next coming years. And then you see they are not in public. They are saying we will. The ambition is to sell 50% of the trucks electric in 2030. But when we close the books and we wipe out the names of the truck manufacturers, they are saying in Germany, almost 3 of the 4 trucks we will sell in Germany in 2030 will be electric. It is what we expect. So you can see we're just saying in the Netherlands we are at 4% this year. We will reach 4% this year. And truck manufacturers in Germany, for the German market, they expect that 75% of the trucks they will sell in 2030 will be electric. So yeah, all the other truck brands, most of the other truck brands are planning for a big scale up. So Tesla is certainly not the only one pointing at the electric truck market in Europe.
Yeah, they don't plan to, as the leader of the semi-truck program said, the more the merrier, and they need also their whole trucking industry to go electric. They can't do it by themselves.
Yeah, so sometimes I get the feeling from Tesla is they are just pushing the rest of the industry to do it, and otherwise Tesla is like the stick for the rest of the industry, and Tesla is using themselves like the stick for the rest of the industry. If the rest of the industry isn't going to do that, then Tesla will come to a market and will give good purchase prices, etc., so that other brands go out of business. And sometimes I think, in the words Tesla uses, this is the role they want to play. They want to accelerate the production of electric trucks for other brands, because as you said, they're saying we cannot do it all by ourselves. So sometimes I think they're just using themselves as some kind of punishment tool for other legacy brands. If they are not going to do it, we are going to do it. But if you are going to do it, we're going to leave you alone, more or less.
Yeah, that sounds like Tesla to me. I have a feeling that the other manufacturers don't want to repeat the mistakes that they made with the normal cars for normal users and with the trucking industry. And I have the feeling that they are planning much further ahead. But from the outside, it's still kind of slow. I don't, and there's a lot of potential from the side of Tesla, I think, because yes, we see the first factory in Nevada now getting finally built. So they are ready for prime time. The Tesla Semi Truck is ready for prime time. But I think that also means that they could quite fast do a second factory, for example, in Berlin, or extend the Giga Berlin factory for the Tesla Semi Truck. I know that you have an interesting and maybe also different opinion on that, because we talked about this. I had an interesting discussion with somebody from Designwerk in Switzerland, who told me that basically there were some regulations changed so that the Tesla Semi Truck could come to Europe as it is. I think you have another opinion on that, right?
Yeah, but I changed my opinion also a little bit, because at first I thought the semi would be too long, but as you said, the guys from Designwerk, I know them as well. Last week they were at my place here, over in my office in the Netherlands. There's a new regulation. So if you have an aerodynamic cabin, you're allowed to be longer. So we don't have to discuss if the Tesla Semi has an aerodynamic cab. It has. So it could be longer. And there's no restriction on how long the cab could be. The only restriction is it has to turn within a certain turning circle. within a certain turning radius, I have to say. So as long as they manage to turn within that circle, within that radius, they are allowed on the road. I think this is less of a problem, and probably, but I don't know that for sure. They're not too wide also, so they're also within the regulation of the width of a truck. So there's not much holding them back from getting trucks on the road of a regulatory standard point of view. But I see some difficulties being it a 6x4, and in Europe we use 4x2s. So even we're probably going to discuss weight as well. But even for the Tesla Semi, it has an impressive low weight for an electric truck, especially for a 6x4. But when you compare it by a 4x2, it is actually quite a little bit higher in weight.
Maybe we have to explain that very quickly, because not everybody might know that. So when you're talking about 4x2, you mean that you have basically 2 axles with 4 wheels, and one of them is powered, right? And the semi-truck is...
Yeah, one axle is powered.
And the semi-truck is basically a 6x4 configuration.
And then you have 3 axles where 2 are driven, are connected to the driveline. And this is 6x4s are not used in Europe very much.
Why is that?
So, that's a good question. Weight is one thing. Every axle you add adds weight, and weight is cost in fuel efficiency, is cost in repair and maintenance. And we can manage with 2 axles. So why put another axle if we can manage with 2 axles? I think this is the reason, especially in the Netherlands. Earlier on, you want to make your truck as compact as possible to fit between this length dimension regulation. So a 4x2 is shorter, and then you have a lot of other regulations. So, for example, the front, the old regulation, the front of the truck up till the kingpin, the point where the trailer is attached to the truck, where it wiggles, I have to say, but it can be up to a maximum of 4.5 meters, and then from the kingpin onwards to the back of the trailer could also be a maximum of 12 meters. So in total, the total length of the truck with the trailer is 16.5 meters. So you want to make the truck as short as possible. And you want to the wheelbase as well so short as possible, because you don't have a lot of space in Europe, and especially in the Netherlands, it's a small country. And when you have a smaller wheelbase, you have a smaller turning radius, so you can better handle your truck. So those are, I think, the explanations why we drive a lot of 4x2s. In the American market, it's a little bit different. Why is it different? Because we don't have we didn't have the length, or we don't have the length regulation that stops us from that makes 4x2 or short trucks mandatory. So they have a lot easier dimension regulation. So I think this is the reason. But I don't know for sure. There's a question I never thought about.
That's good then that I asked it. And that will be interesting, because the 4x2 configuration trucks are lighter than the Tesla Semi Truck today. Tesla revealed shortly some time ago the weight of the truck, and it was for me very surprising, or better than I thought it would be, because if you compare it to a 6x4 configuration, it's actually the same weight as a diesel truck. And the version with a smaller battery, with a 300-mile range, which would be fine for a lot of use cases, is even lighter than diesel truck. And you have some regulations that say that electric trucks can carry more weight in the US and I think as well in Europe. So so basically there's not really a big difference or no difference, maybe even an advantage from the weight perspective. And if we can get around the length with new regulations, then maybe it would be fast.
Yeah, it really also depends on the turning radius. I don't know this. I don't know this for sure because I think that the Tesla Semi also has independent suspension in front. And that's also something that's new within trucks. We have a rigid axle in front normally, so independent suspension of both wheels is new. Maybe it's they are able to make a bigger. They have a steeper angle of the steering, so maybe they can compensate for being a 6x4. Because a 6x4, the turning radius, the turning point is in the middle of the two axles, and with a 4x2, the turning point is in the middle of the first tire of the rear axle. Let's say so. So the wheelbase is very important for the turning radius. So I don't know for sure if how the Tesla manages this if they have a short turning circle, because when you have we don't have the same spaces as in the US. If you want to make a corner backwards and you want to drive your trailer up to the dock, you need all the space you can get, and oftentimes truck drivers drive very shortly with their nose from a concrete barrier or something like that, or just neighboring trucks or so. So every centimeter we can go shorter is for turning circle is better.
Yeah.
So, but maybe I'm thinking out loud that the pointy shape of the cabin also helps, because when you're turning, you also the radius is determined by the outer side of the truck, so the outer point of the boxy shape of the legacy cabin, of the old cabin. Now, if you have a more like pointy truck, the length is not so much relevant to the turning radius, because when you turn, it just like rubs the turning radius, but it never goes over. So maybe they can manage it also in that way, but this is something I don't know for sure.
We'll ask them in Hanover. I think that is a very good question. Maybe we can compare a little bit the Tesla Semi Truck to other electric trucks in the way it is built. Maybe you can explain a little bit what's the main difference here, and where do you see maybe an advantage for Tesla in the way they built this truck?
Yeah, there are a number of differences. So first of all, we already mentioned that they have, I think they have, but I don't know 100% for sure, independent suspension in front, which is different to normal trucks, which have a rigid front axle. Probably this will be more comfortable for the truck driver, but maybe the truck will be also a little bit more stable. I am a little bit curious of what the weight of the front axle is that it can carry. I just looked it up today. I saw a picture of the tire of a front axle, and it has a loading index that is similar to a 8-ton front axle. So this could be the same with the European trucks. The position of the seat is one thing that Tesla does different than the legacy brands at the moment. That's a result, and maybe this front suspension as well. That's a result of going back to the drawing board and making from the first pencil stripe, making it an electric truck. So for diesel trucks, for example, you want to have the cab as low as possible over your diesel engine, because a lower cab is better for aerodynamics. You have a lot more storing space up high for the truck driver, but also the dead angles in front of the truck are smaller, so it's safer, etc. Now, when we have an electric truck, we don't have a diesel engine below the cab anymore, so you can drop the height of the cabin, and you can also choose to make the seating position of the driver in the middle, because there's no motor tunnel anymore. There's no a piece in the middle that's higher than the rest of the cab. And this has some advantages. For example, on the right side, on the passenger side, and the dead angle is a lot smaller, so it's a lot safer in that way. You can make the cabin more pointier because you can make it surrounding the truck driver. So from an aerodynamic standpoint, this is a good thing. So this is new seating position in the middle. We're seeing different new entrances to the market also experimenting with driving position in the middle. And I think that legacy truck manufacturers will go to the seating position in the middle as well. But this will take maybe 10, maybe even 15 years before they are able to do that, because they have planned that their cabins, they have designed their cabs, and their cabs they have to be in production for like 20 years or so. So, for example, Scania was in 2017, DAF recently in 2021, I think, with a new cab. They have to produce those cabs for the next coming 10 to 20 years.
Wow.
And putting then the driver into the middle in an existing cab is not so easy.
Yeah.
So
Imagine.
we have the front suspension, the driver in the middle. What Tesla also does, but this is also, I don't know really for sure, is what they do with the battery, the position of the battery. So normally you just swap out a diesel tank on the side of the chassis for a battery. And what I'm very curious of is if Tesla is going to insulate their battery, so to insulate from wind and from cold and from heat from the outside, because as most of the viewers probably know, if you have to condition, the thermal management of the battery also consumes electricity from the battery. So I think when I look at Tesla and how they're doing the things, they will insulate in some kind of way or protect the battery from the outside heat and wind and cold.
But when you say insulate, you mean from the position of the battery, right?
Yeah, but I don't know for sure how what the position of the battery exactly is, because what I saw of the Tesla Semi, I'm not a full-time watcher of this Semi. It looks like there are 9 battery packs positioned, one row at the left side of the chassis, one in the middle, one row of 3 at the right side of the chassis. And maybe at the front they do something on the underside of the battery. They insulate with some pieces of plastic insulation, etc. I can see the doing. Legacy truck manufacturers, I'm not seeing doing that right now. So I'm curious what that will be. And then you have the driveline, and because of the way Tesla engineered the Tesla Semi, it has 2 driven axles, and within the 2 driven axles there are 3 motors. So the first motor is attached to the first driven axle, and the 2 other motors are attached to the second driven motor. So it could be that Tesla chooses that the 6x4 is the way to go to in Europe, because they think it is. I don't know for sure. I think they would come with a European version, but they could do it. And if they are going with a 4x2 with a redesigned design for Europe with a 4x2, then they have to solve the problem of the 3 motors, because you need the 3 motors because of the high power of the motors, and not for accelerating, but especially for braking. So if you're going with a truck into the mountains and you're going into a steep decline, a long decline, you need a lot of braking power to keep a steady pace, so not to have a runaway of the truck. So with diesel trucks, we do that with engine brakes, we call it, and with retarders or intarders. And if you combine those two, you have up to 800, sometimes even over 800 kilowatts of braking power into your system. So if Tesla goes to a 4x2 and they cannot skip those 2 extra motors because they need their braking power. I have to say, for most, for 80, probably even 9% of all the applications in Europe, they don't need those high braking powers, but for the last 10%, they do need it. and especially for the range those trucks of Tesla have. Supposedly they have up to 800 kilometers. Those are long-haul trucks in Europe. And then you can suppose that they make those climbs and those declines in the mountains, so they need this braking power. So this is something Tesla does different than the legacy manufacturers. But I could also see that legacy manufacturers are going to up their power on the e-axles in the next coming years. And I don't know how Tesla is going to resolve this challenge. If they're just going to stick with a 6x4, are they going to make a 4x2 with some kind of detachable motor set, so they can detach the driveline, the two motors, and just use one? I don't know how they're going to do this. So those are the things that Tesla is really doing different. It's the front suspension, I suspect. It's the seating position of the driver. It's the shape of the cabin, which is really pointy and really aerodynamic. It's probably the battery, which are doing some insulation or something. They're doing different as well. The driveline will be different. And as we know, Tesla, they iterate on they develop their product step by step. And as Dan Presley said, they are just using a lot of outsourced parts right now. They're just using like a sort normal kind of chassis beams. And if you ask me, I think that within 10 to 15 years, we will see trucks, or probably even earlier on, with an integrated battery pack, like a structural battery pack, like we know in passenger cars as well. Because I think that there's room within the chassis to do that. And the strengths that have to be, the power, the weight that has to be. Okay, so let me try to explain what I mean. Within a diesel truck, you have the diesel engine in front. And when you drive where you accelerate with a full loaded truck and you drive it at full power, then the drive line has a lot of torsion. So it turns up from front to back. So the diesel engine is pulling on the chassis beams, and it's really putting all those torsion to the back to the first axle where the chassis is attached. Now, if we have an e-axle, we don't have this torsion within the chassis. So one of the functions of the chassis is to transport this torsion to the back. Now, when we have an e-axle, that's not necessary anymore. So we can build our chassis a little bit lighter. And I'm already seeing the first hints of that within the Mercedes-Benz e-Actros, which also has an e-axle. They cut away the underside of the beams of the chassis just to accommodate enough room for the battery to accommodate the battery. And that made me think we don't make chassis beams just thicker and stronger because we like it. We make trucks as light as possible to make them as cheap as possible, to make as much money as possible on and with trucks. So cutting a piece out of the chassis beam made me think, okay, there's something I must be missing. And I think this is the reason Mercedes-Benz is able to cut this piece out of the chassis beam. And I think Tesla is able to do that in the future as well. And because we know Tesla is a company that makes a progression along the way and a lot of small steps, and they don't hesitate to make a better version of their own product, I can see that they eventually end up making a fully integrated battery pack, like some kind of skateboard with a Tesla Semi. But that's not for now, probably, because I saw some chassis beams and it's more or less a lookalike of a legacy build, but I can see this happening. So
just let me get this straight if I understood everything. You say basically that because of the motor, of the classical motor in an ICE truck, you have a lot of torque which is going on and which is kind of having an impact on the chassis. So you need these chassis beams to stabilize basically the whole structure. And
exactly.
With batteries, or as you have these e-axles, so you don't have this torque anymore going on. So you could basically replace these chassis beams with maybe a structural battery pack in the future. I'm actually wondering if Tesla might have done something like this because maybe already, because my theory, and that is also speculation here, is that they kind of made a second version of the Tesla Semi Truck. You know, they took a very long time to bring it to mass production. And I think they used all this time that they already had with their own fleet and with some trucks at PepsiCo, for example, to find out all the problems they have. And I think the second version, which is going into the mass production, is really different from maybe what we've seen on the pictures on the internet already. So I'm very looking forward to actually see the truck and to see if there are maybe some more details in this direction here. And
yeah, they probably have already done the engineering, etc. Yeah, I'm looking very forward as well on what it's going to be in the future.
Do you think that they already? One reason why it took so long, in my idea or in my mind, is that they were waiting a little bit for the 4680 batteries. I know that right now the semi trucks that are built don't have the 4680s, but I think that Tesla will get to a cheaper production level with their own battery production at some point, hopefully end of this year. And I think, as they said, that they will build a huge battery factory as well in Nevada, which will be for the Tesla Semi Truck. I think they will also integrate these batteries. And in Berlin, of course, they plan to have a battery production as well. Sounds to me like they are all waiting for this new battery technology to work and to be cheaper. What do you think? Might this be also a reason for why it took so long?
Yeah, this could very much be the case. I don't know for sure because it's very difficult to analyze and to. I'm not a very strong Tesla follower, so I don't follow Tesla on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know exactly what they're waiting for. I could also see that they're making. They're thinking, okay, where can we make the most money? Where can we strengthen Tesla the most and make the most money? That's with the same kilowatt hour putting into a passenger car. Maybe this makes a lot of more money. And you can say this is not the mission of Tesla. Tesla wants to accelerate the sustainable energy transition. But it could be that when Tesla has more money, they could accelerate in different ways. So I don't know for sure why Tesla didn't came with the Tesla Semi early on. But I think if I see the weight of the truck right now, as we discussed, it's not far off of just a 4x2, and it's not even off with a 6x4. Then they had to wait on this technology. This could very much be the case, yes, indeed, because of the weight. Because when we put batteries with the state of technology in 2017 in the same amount in the truck will probably be tons heavier. So 2017 was just not the right time to introduce to produce your truck, and now maybe they are far along with the 4680 or with a different cell. I don't know. That's light enough and that it makes sense to put it into production and to sell those to their customers.
We'll see. They
yeah, I don't know. Tesla is a difficult company to analyze, I think.
I know. Yeah, but we're trying to do our best here, and of course some of this will be speculation, but it's fun to do this, I think, and so it's always good to talk about it. If we listen to what the Tesla community is coming up with, there was some post that I've seen recently, and it was about a test from the company NFI. I'm not sure if you've seen that. They had also some Tesla Semi trucks to test, and they were basically having routes between 250 and 450 miles, so quite a long distance. they did 6,000 miles with the Semi, and they used the energy equivalent of 1.64 kilowatt hours per mile on these 6,000 miles. So I don't know if you prefer calculating in miles or if you want to have it in kilometers.
Yeah, for me, kilometers. Yeah, kilometers is a little bit better, but I know 1.7 kilowatt hours per mile is roughly the same as 1.06 kilowatt hours per kilometer. And this is very, very efficient for
I think
a truck.
It was 102.
So normally,
I think it was 102 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers.
Yeah, but then the number of 1.67 kilowatt hour per mile.
Maybe I'm getting it wrong.
I think what Dan Priestley said in the presentation that he did at the ACT Expo is that over the whole fleet, the consumption was 1.7, roughly 1.7 kilowatt hours per mile, and this adds up to exactly. This could be, and this calculates to 1.0625, I think, per kilometer. And this is a very, very efficient consumption. So you can roughly, in Europe, you can say roughly a 4x2 tractor with a 3-axle trailer behind it. It consumes about 25 liters diesel per 100 kilometers. And this is roughly equivalent to 125 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So if Tesla does 106 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, this is very efficient. It's 15% more efficient, even 20%, I think. I have to do the math, but this is really a lot. And in the end, in a TCO, in a total cost of ownership calculation, a large part of the cost you make for a truck is the cost for energy. With diesels, it's enormous. It's like 25% of all the cost you make, including the truck driver. With the amount you can save is in with electric truck is in electricity. So if you can make it more efficient, the cost saving in your operation will be bigger. So the TCO, the total cost of ownership, in the end will be sooner break even. So this is a very, very efficient energy consumption.
Yeah, I think it was 101 with this 1.64.
101 is even better. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
this is really good. This is 10-15 years up ahead from the legacy manufacturers right now. But I have to be fair. Legacy manufacturers already produce and sell electric trucks in Europe, and Tesla doesn't. This is also, we can talk. This is also always what it is with the Tesla Semi. We're already talking about the Tesla Semi from 2017 onwards and saying it's a superior product, but it's not there. We cannot buy it. We cannot sell it at the moment. At this moment, Tesla is not beneficiary to accelerating sustainability in our electrification in road transport of heavy trucks. So we can say that with all those numbers, Tesla is probably, if it's on the market, the superior technology in a superior truck, but it isn't on the market right now. So in the market right now has to do it with the trucks that are now available. We have to do these pilots. It would be very selfish of Tesla to just start selling trucks when the customers are ready for a mass transition, because as we started, you need 2-3 years at least to get acquainted with the subject, with the electrification of trucks. So now the legacy truck manufacturers are helping those transportation companies to make the switch and to get acquainted with the subject. And Tesla isn't at the moment. So this is always a side note with Tesla. And again, on paper and the things we're hearing from a technology standpoint, it's a superior product, but in the end, it's not being produced and sold to trucks.
So basically, Tesla needs to do a lot of homework when it comes to building also a relationship with first clients also in Europe. I think you told me that they're looking for business development people for the Tesla Semi Truck in Europe. So they're starting to work on this. Apparently, there's also something that people tell me that Tesla doesn't have the service in place yet. So they need to build on top of the maybe charging infrastructure. They need to come up with a service for professional B2B customers in the logistic industry. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I really don't think this will be the problem in the end. If the trucks are good enough and the price is right and the total costs add up in the end, then we will buy Tesla Semi Trucks. I have no doubt. And how service will be done, yes, service is important, but not as important with ICE trucks. ICE trucks, I don't want to make it bigger than it is. They break down all the time, but that's not really true. But you're a lot dependent on the service you can get from your dealership. But also, it is really an old way of thinking. We have to drive the truck to the workshop to get it repaired. Now, I think with electric trucks, when you have a lot less components, it's also possible to drive towards the truck with a service van and just give service to the truck on the spot itself. Maybe for the bigger repairs, it's not possible. Then I will see how Tesla will manage. I think I heard some people from Tesla say, Dan Priestley, I think, also at the ACT Expo, if transportation companies have their own workshop, and a lot of them have their own workshop with their own garage, Tesla is happy to help them to service Teslas at their own workshops. So this could also be a part of the solution. And the bigger transportation companies, let's say, it's a choice of a transportation company if you have your own workshop or not. But if you have your own workshop, and a lot of them do have their own workshop, Tesla is happy to help them, to provide them with components, but also with service at the site. So if you look in this way, I don't think that service will be a problem. Will be the problem in the end for Tesla, the Tesla Semi in Europe.
So, what do you think it is then? Is it really the scale of or scaling up the factory, or is it also a charging infrastructure? Because this is for sure one argument that I always hear on my channel, that it will never work because there's no charging infrastructure today. Yeah, but the subject of charging infrastructure for trucks is, I think, a little bit hyped up. It is a little bit made bigger than it really is. But yeah, of course, we need charging infrastructure, public charging infrastructure for long-haul trucks to charge. But most of the trucks, I think 70 to 80% of all the trucks in Europe, they have an application when they leave their home base in the morning and they come back at the home base in the evening. So they will charge at their own depot. So I think that virtually all transportation companies in Europe will have their own charging infrastructure at their own site. Now, of course, grid congestion is a problem right then. You have to have the power from the grid or your own storage and solar generation. So this could be a problem. Yes, we need a lot of chargers for public charging. But it also depends on what the price will be of this public charging. For example, if you so margins are very thin, very small. So if you can charge for 5 cents cheaper at your colleague who's at the other side of the country, you can charge over there because he has some free spots that he doesn't use because his trucks are at your side of the country. You can swap those trucks out. And I think the transportation companies charge a lower price than public charging could even manage. So the cost price is lower, and there are a lot of incentives for transportation companies to put their charging infrastructure open to third-party transportation companies to charge at their home depot. So in the end, charging will not be easy, and it is a hell of a job to get it right. But it will be done, but it will start with depot charging, and from there on we can build out.
Now, also, we have a lot of commercial activities that are trying to build chargers in public. So, for example, in Europe, we have a company called Milens. Milens is a joint venture of 5 of the 7 big truck brands that have they have invested 500 million euros into Milens, and the sole purpose of Milens is to put 1,700 chargers into the ground up to 2027 for electric trucks. So, and this is not the only company that's looking into charging of electric truck. All the big oil companies are also looking into charging trucks publicly, but also on depot and some combination of semi-public charging on your own depot. So charging, yeah, you have to take the time to arrange it, and this is where the preparation time of 2-3 years come from the charging infrastructure. But in the end, you will manage. It will be managed. This will be done. I cannot see this will not happen. For example, for parking spots, at the moment we have a lack of parking spots, so there are a lot more trucks that want to park overnight than there are parking spots. Now, if you add chargers to parking spots, you add another revenue stream to those parking spots. And then you have that's a reason to build out more parking spots, because you have an added value stream. And just a parking spot, maybe when it's a secure parking spot, you have to pay a little bit. But when you can also sell your kilowatt hours and make a little bit of margin on those kilowatt hours, it's an incentive to build extra parking spots. So charging, yes, it is a challenge, but in the end, it could also be the solution. For example, the parking problem in Europe.
Okay, interesting. How do you think, or what do you think will be the impact of the fact that Tesla is actually having a solution for battery storage and also for charging? Can they leverage this as an advantage for them when they were starting also in a new market as Europe?
Yeah, it could be, because, but it really depends on what Tesla is going to do with their charging infrastructure. Now, as we discussed, they are also they're saying if there are other parties that can help us build trucks or build charging infrastructure, please help us. So I'm not really sure what Tesla is going to do. Are they really going to put all those effort in building charging infrastructure on your own depot with stationary batteries? At the moment, we really see a hype on stationary batteries in the Netherlands, because prices are decreasing very rapidly. Now, I think there are other companies that can do storage as well, because the scale of storage is probably not interesting enough for Tesla. Tesla maybe only wants the bigger projects, and then a stationary battery at the side of a transportation company is just too small for them. I don't know. So it could be an advantage. There's one thing I'm very curious about is we're going to charge trucks. This is a little bit different topic, but I'm curious what Tesla will do. When we charge trucks, we mainly do that with via DC charging, just because of the power we need. But there are some, but also the onboard charger is not needed on the truck, so we save some weight, we save some cost on the truck, but we also save a liability, because the onboard charger can break down if it's not on the truck. So what you could also do is make a direct DC-DC connection. So between, for example, a stationary battery and the truck, and then the drive line, the E-motor or the inverter of the motor can make the right voltage for the truck to charge on. So then you don't need a expensive charger in the end to charge your truck. And this is something Elon Musk hinted once, that he said it's not just a big box of batteries. This could be very much be a big box of batteries with a charging plug connected directly to it, just giving the voltage it gives to the truck. The truck makes the right voltage to charge, and it will charge without any expensive charging infrastructure. So Tesla seems to me the company that's up for such kind of innovative technology. And I'm very curious if they want to do that, and if they are going to do that and others are not going to do that, yeah, then Tesla could be very big in charging infrastructure for trucks as well. And I see this as a very big advantage because the added costs of a truck are minor and the saved costs on the charging infrastructure are big. So this also helps to lower the total cost of ownership of an electric truck. But for the legacy brands, I will not see this coming in the next 10 years or so.
Okay, interesting. Look, you know more than me when it comes to Tesla because I haven't heard of that. So.
Yeah, it's but I don't know for sure if Tesla is going to do that. It's just a type of charging that is feasible in the future, but we don't see it right now. So there's one car that's able to do that. Is the eGMP. I cannot say eGMP platform because the P is already platform. But the Hyundai EV6, I think, and the Kia. Or the Kia EV6 is it, and the Hyundai, I don't know what it is, but also on the eGMP, they already, you can see it in a video of Monroe and Associates, they already have an extra pin on the inverter to make it a DC-DC conversion. And this is exactly the thing I'm talking about. And perhaps I think there's a very small chance that Tesla doesn't see this opportunity to do the same thing, especially when connecting a DC battery with a stationary battery, but puts out DC directly into the truck at the voltage it works on, the stationary battery, and the truck itself makes the right voltage to charge the truck in the end. I think the engineers of Tesla have already seen that, but I hope I'm not overestimating the engineers of Tesla. But if I can think about it, the engineers of Tesla can also think about it.
Yes, I guess so. And very interesting point, definitely. Yes. If you go to the trade fair in Hanover, what would be your top 3 questions for Tesla?
Wow, you surprised me a little bit. I didn't prepare on this one. The first thing I wanted to know if they are planning to build a 4x2 and not a 6x4. And the second question will be, the question after that is why, independent of what the answer will be. And the last one probably, but everyone wants to know, is when if they are planning to produce a semi-truck in Berlin, and when they are thinking they are going to start production for consumers. Those are the things I think I'm the most curious about. I don't know if I can get any answers on that, but maybe the front suspension, I'm also curious about it, how it works. And all those technical things we just discussed. I want to know all about it, but I can just add 3 questions. It will be will we get a 4x2? What was the reason to go to a 4x2 or not to go to a 4x2? And when do you think you can start production for consumers in Europe?
Very good. I think that are very interesting questions, and we will ask them in Hanover, definitely. And for me, I'm very looking forward to this moment. It's a new product. And as you know, for Tesla, the product is not only the truck, but also the factory behind the product. And so I'm very, very much looking forward to see the new Tesla Semi factory in Nevada as it's getting built. And I think there's a good chance that they will replicate this factory in Europe, in Berlin. And Elon said it probably makes sense to bring the semi-truck to Germany. And if they feel ready right now to scale it up, then why not scale it up in Europe as well? That's my take on this. And we will ask good questions in Hanover. I'm very happy that I could talk to you about this. Thank you very much for all your insights. And I'm sure there will be questions that people will ask in the comments, and I'm going to try to answer them as good as I can, and maybe you can help a little bit as well. And we stay in touch and talk about the Tesla Semi Truck on several further occasions, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you for having me in your show, and I will try to answer some questions in the comments as well.
Great, thank you. Falls ihr diesen Kanal unterstützen wollt, dann schaut mal bei Shop for Tesla rein. Ihr bekommt 5% Rabatt auf jetzt alle Produkte und ihr tragt mit eurem Kauf auch dazu bei, dass ich weiter diese Videos machen kann. Diese Sendung wurde freundlicherweise vom Tesla Owners Club Helvetia in der Schweiz und dem TFF, dem Tesla Fahrer und Freunde e.V. unterstützt.